They stare at you like you're a puzzle missing a piece. One day you're calm, composed, almost holy. The next you're cold, unreadable, dangerous, and it's driving them insane, because the world is comfortable with boxes. Saint, psychopath, hero, villain, but you don't fit in their tiny little categories, and that terrifies them. See, people don't fear evil. They understand evil. They don't fear goodness. They understand goodness. What they fear is unpredictability. They fear the man who can forgive, but never forget. They fear the woman who can smile sweetly, while calculating every move in silence. They fear the soul that walks in light, but isn't afraid of the dark. Because when they can't define you, they can't control you. And when they can't control you, they start whispering. Is he dangerous? Is she unstable? Are they broken? No. You're aware. You learned how to survive in a world that smiles while sharpening knives. You learned that being only kind gets you crushed, and being only ruthless makes you empty. So you became both. A saint with boundaries, a devil with discipline. And now they can't decide what you are. Good, let them argue. Let them debate. Let them lose sleep trying to decode you. Because the moment they stop understanding you is the moment you become powerful. Tonight, we're not talking about madness. We're talking about mastery. And by the end of this speech, you'll understand why the most dangerous person in the room is the one who smiles and says nothing. There is a version of you the world finds comfortable, soft, forgiving, endlessly patient. And there is another version they secretly fear, decisive, unshaken, capable of walking away without flinching. Most people are taught to choose one. Be the light, be the good one, be the harmless one. Or, after being hurt enough times, they swing to the other extreme and become cold, detached, almost merciless. But true power is never found in extremes. It lives in the balance. Light without darkness is not a V. Darkness without light is destructive. When you master both, you become something rare. You understand kindness, but you are not manipulated by it. You understand anger, but you are not controlled by it. You can forgive, yet you never allow repeated disrespect. You can love deeply, yet you are fully prepared to walk alone. That duality confuses people because they expect consistency in weakness, not consistency in strength. Balancing light and darkness means knowing when to speak gently and when to stay silent. It means offering compassion to those who deserve it and distance to those who don't. It means your smile is genuine, but your boundaries are unbreakable. You don't explode in rage, yet you don't tolerate betrayal. You don't seek revenge, but you also don't forget lessons. Every scar becomes strategy. Every disappointment becomes awareness. The light in you is your values, your empathy, your ability to uplift others, even when you're tired. It's the part of you that chooses integrity when no one is watching. It's your discipline, your faith in growth, your refusal to become bitter. But the darkness, that is your survival instinct. It's your ability to detach. It's your understanding of human nature. It's the awareness that not everyone deserves access to your heart. When these two forces work together, you become grounded. You are not easily provoked, because you understand emotions. You are not easily deceived, because you understand intentions. You don't crumble under criticism, and you don't inflate under praise. You observe. You calculate. You respond instead of reacting. People may call it intimidating. They may say you've changed. What they really mean is they can no longer predict you, and unpredictability born from self-control is not chaos, it's composure. You choose when to be soft. You choose when to be firm. You choose when to stay and when to leave. Nothing about you is accidental. Mastering this balance requires brutal honesty with yourself. You must face your flaws without denial. Accept your anger without shame. Acknowledge your fears without letting them rule you. The darkness inside you is not evil. It is unprocessed power. When you understand it, you control it. When you ignore it, it controls you. The strongest individuals are not those who pretend they have no darkness. They are the ones who have explored it, understood it, and decided to act with intention anyway. They don't suppress their shadow, they discipline it. They don't lose their kindness, they protect it. And when someone stands in front of you, trying to decide whether you are gentle or dangerous, they miss the point entirely. You are both, but only by choice. Predictability is comfort, and comfort makes people feel safe. When they can read you, they relax. When they can anticipate your reactions, they adjust their behavior to control the outcome. If they know you'll always forgive, they'll risk hurting you. If they know you'll always react emotionally, they'll push your buttons. If they know you'll always stay, they'll never fear losing you. The moment you become predictable, you become manageable. Staying unpredictable is not about being chaotic. It's not about mood swings or inconsistency. It's about emotional discipline. It's about responding based on principle, not impulse. When you stop reacting automatically, you force people to think twice. They can't press the same trigger and expect the same explosion. They can't repeat the same apology and expect instant access again. Your silence becomes heavier than your words. Unpredictability built on self-control creates psychological space. Instead of arguing immediately, you observe. Instead of explaining yourself to everyone, you let them wonder. Instead of chasing clarity from others, you maintain your own. You don't overshare your next move. You don't reveal your entire strategy. You don't show all your emotions at once. Mystery isn't deception, it's protection. When people don't fully understand you, they pay closer attention. And attention shifts power. If they cannot decode your limits, they hesitate before crossing them. If they cannot measure your tolerance, they think before testing it. You don't need to threaten anyone. Your composure does the work for you. Most individuals live on patterns. Same tone, same habits, same reactions. They become easy to predict and therefore easy to influence. But when you grow, learn, adapt, and refine yourself, your responses evolve. You are calm where you once argued. You detach where you once begged. You smile where you once overreacted. That evolution feels unpredictable to those who expected the old version of you. Mystery also strengthens your presence. When you don't constantly explain yourself, your words carry more weight. When you don't immediately reveal your plans, your results speak louder. When you don't seek validation, your confidence becomes visible. Silence becomes a strategy. Observation becomes a weapon. Patience becomes an advantage. Staying unpredictable requires inner stability. You must know your values so clearly that you don't need to defend them loudly. You must understand your emotions so deeply that you don't leak them carelessly. You must be comfortable alone, so your decisions are not influenced by fear of abandonment. True unpredictability is calm, not dramatic. There is a difference between confusion and mystery. Confusion comes from inconsistency without purpose. Mystery comes from discipline with intention. When your actions are guided by self-respect rather than emotion, people cannot easily categorize you. One day you're warm and generous. The next, you are distant and firm. Not because your mood changed, but because the situation required a different boundary. When they realize they cannot fully map you, something shifts. They begin to measure their words. They reconsider their behavior. They stop assuming. Not because you became aggressive, but because you became aware. And awareness, when combined with restraint, creates a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. Being human does not mean being available for mistreatment. For many people, Kindness has been confused with weakness, and boundaries have been mistaken for cruelty. They believe that if you are truly good, you must always say yes, always forgive instantly, always tolerate discomfort for the sake of harmony. But humanity without limits becomes self-destruction. If you give endlessly without protecting your energy, you slowly disappear. Setting boundaries is not about building walls to isolate yourself from the world. It is about drawing lines that protect your peace. It is deciding what behavior you accept and what behavior you refuse to entertain. It is understanding that your time, your attention, and your emotional capacity are valuable resources. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to them. You can be compassionate and still say no. You can understand someone's pain and still refuse to carry it for them. Empathy does not require self-sacrifice. In fact, healthy empathy requires self-respect. When you have no boundaries, resentment begins to grow. You may smile outwardly while feeling drained internally. You may help others while neglecting your own needs. Over time, that imbalance turns kindness into bitterness. Boundaries create clarity. They teach people how to treat you. When you calmly communicate your limits, you remove confusion. You are not shouting, threatening, or demanding. You are simply stating what aligns with your values. Those who respect you will adjust. Those who do not were benefiting from your lack of limits in the first place. Maintaining your humanity while setting boundaries means you do not become cold or cruel in the process. You do not seek revenge. You do not insult or degrade. You remain calm. You remain fair. You explain once if necessary, and then you stand firm. The power is not in aggression. It is in consistency. When your actions match your words, people recognize that your limits are not temporary moods, but permanent standards. There will be moments when enforcing a boundary feels uncomfortable. You may fear disappointing someone. You may worry about being misunderstood. But discomfort is often the price of self-respect. Growth rarely feels gentle. Every time you choose to protect your peace, you strengthen your identity. You teach yourself that your well-being matters. Without boundaries, relationships become unbalanced. One person overextends, the other oversteps. Clear limits create healthier dynamics. They encourage mutual respect. They allow generosity to come from choice rather than obligation. When you help someone because you want to, not because you feel pressured, your kindness remains genuine. Holding boundaries also requires emotional control. When someone challenges your limits, you resist the urge to overreact. You don't argue endlessly to justify your position. You don't seek approval for protecting yourself. You simply reinforce your stance calmly. Your energy remains stable. Your tone remains measured. Keeping your humanity means remembering that everyone makes mistakes, including you. Boundaries are not about punishing others for being imperfect. They are about preventing repeated harm. You can forgive someone and still reduce their access to you. You can care about someone and still create distance. Forgiveness and distance can coexist. When you balance compassion with firmness, you stop living in extremes. You are not a doormat, and you are not a tyrant. You are someone who understands that love without respect is fragile, and respect without kindness is cold. By protecting your peace without losing your empathy, you create a version of strength that is steady, controlled, and deeply self-aware. Not everyone is meant to understand you. That truth is uncomfortable, especially in a world that pushes constant explanation. We are taught to clarify ourselves, defend our choices, justify our growth, and make sure everyone feels comfortable with who we are becoming. But the need to be understood by everyone is a silent trap. The moment you start shaping yourself to fit other people's perceptions, you lose alignment with your own identity. When people misunderstand you, their first instinct is to label you. Too quiet, too intense, too ambitious, Too distant, too emotional, too cold. These labels are reflections of their perspective, not definitions of your character. Every person views you through the lens of their experiences, insecurities, and expectations. You cannot control that lens. Trying to adjust yourself to match every viewpoint will leave you fragmented. Allowing yourself to be misunderstood requires confidence. It means you are secure enough in your intentions that you don't need constant validation. If someone interprets your silence as arrogance, you don't rush to prove your humility. If someone mistakes your boundaries for hostility, you don't immediately soften them to regain approval. You understand that clarity is earned through consistent behavior, not desperate explanation. There is power in selective explanation. You don't owe your full story to everyone who asks questions. Not every curiosity deserves a detailed answer. Sometimes your actions will speak louder than your defense. Over time, patterns reveal truth more effectively than arguments ever could. When you live consistently with your values, those who truly matter will see it. Letting people misunderstand you also protects your energy. Endless clarification drains you. Repeating yourself to people who are determined to misinterpret you becomes exhausting. At some point, you realize that misunderstanding is not always accidental. Some people choose to see you inaccurately because it makes them more comfortable. If they admit your growth, they must confront their own stagnation. If they accept your boundaries, they must acknowledge their previous overreach. You are not responsible for managing everyone's perception of you. You are responsible for managing your character. There is a difference. Character is who you are when no one is watching. Reputation is who people think you are. Reputation shifts with rumors and opinions. Character remains stable. When you focus on the latter, the former loses its control over your emotions. Being misunderstood can feel isolating. You may experience moments where you wish people saw your intentions clearly, but growth often creates distance. As you evolve, the version of you that others were comfortable with begins to fade. Some will cling to the old image. They will resist the new one. They will say you have changed as if it is an accusation. They are right, you have changed. That is the point. You do not become defensive. You become steady. You stop explaining your every move. You let your results speak. You let your calm presence contradict false assumptions. Over time, those who genuinely care will seek understanding rather than judgment, and those who prefer misunderstanding will eventually drift away. When you accept that clarity is not for everyone, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of proving your worth. You stop shrinking to fit narratives that were never accurate. You stop performing for approval. You live in alignment with your values, knowing that misunderstanding is sometimes the price of authenticity. Emotions are powerful. They can elevate you to your highest potential or drag you into decisions you later regret. The difference between strength and chaos is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Many people believe that feeling deeply makes them weak, so they try to suppress everything. Others allow every feeling to dictate their actions. Both extremes create imbalance. Control begins with awareness. When you control your emotions, you do not deny them. You observe them. Anger becomes information instead of aggression. Fear becomes a signal instead of paralysis. Jealousy becomes reflection instead of resentment. Every emotion carries a message about your boundaries, your expectations, or your wounds. The moment you pause and analyze instead of react, you shift from impulsive to intentional. Most conflicts escalate because people respond immediately. Words are thrown without thought. Decisions are made in heated moments. Regret follows. Emotional control introduces space between feeling and action. In that space, you choose your response carefully. You decide whether silence is more powerful than argument. You determine whether walking away preserves your dignity better than proving a point. Self-control is not coldness. It is clarity. You can feel anger without raising your voice. You can feel disappointment without collapsing into self-doubt. You can feel excitement without overcommitting. Your emotions remain present, but they no longer steer the direction of your life without your consent. You become the driver, not the passenger. Triggers reveal where you still need growth. If a small comment disrupts your entire mood, it points to something unresolved. Instead of blaming others for how you feel, you examine why the reaction was so strong. Emotional maturity requires accountability. You accept that while you cannot control external events, you can control your interpretation and response. When someone attempts to provoke you, emotional discipline becomes your shield. They expect anger. They expect visible frustration. When you remain composed, you disrupt their strategy. Calmness unsettles those who rely on chaos. Your steady presence communicates strength without aggression. You do not need to dominate the room. Your stability does it for you. Controlling emotions also strengthens decision-making. Important choices made during intense anger or extreme excitement often lack balance. By allowing emotions to settle before acting, you gain perspective. You weigh consequences. You consider long-term outcomes instead of short-term satisfaction. Patience becomes a strategic advantage. There will be moments when emotions feel overwhelming. Control does not mean perfection. It means practice. It means catching yourself sooner each time. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause for a few seconds, then a few minutes. Eventually, reflection becomes your default response. That shift transforms relationships, career choices, and personal growth. People may mistake your composure for indifference. They may assume you do not care because you do not react dramatically. In reality, you care enough to protect your peace. You care enough to choose maturity over impulse. Emotional control does not eliminate passion. It refines it. It channels intensity into purpose instead of destruction. When your emotions are guided by discipline rather than impulse, you become steady in situations that shake others. Pressure does not crack you easily. Insults do not define you. Praise does not inflate you. You remain balanced, aware, and intentional, allowing feelings to inform you without ever allowing them to command you.